I don't think 2021 is going to be the year that Lewis Hamilton wins his 8th world title. Yeah, let's get started, shall we? Okay, so first up, I'm going to go for last place, which is most definitely going to be Mazepin, isn't it? Really. Evidence suggests that he is quite talentless, good at blocking people, not very good at being a good sportsman, terrible human being, but despite all that, full of cash. So whilst probably the single most penalties in the season, possibly the worst driving offences, and most horrendous off-track action, most likely that's the highest he's ever going to get in there. So last place is Nikita Mazepin. We're going to call them the billionaire's backmarkers. Yes, Nicholas Latifi. Against George Russell, he's not really shone at all, as he's just been a bit. And I just can't imagine he's going to sort of get his act together anymore than second from last. Next up, another one who's kind of just sort of like, which is Giovinazzi. Just there, isn't he? The car's not brilliant, but yeah, I think Giovinazzi's going to have another kind of really quite lackluster, and he's probably going to really harm his chances of ever. Well, it's not probably; it's really going to harm his chances of ever getting anywhere near a Ferrari seats. I think Baby Schumacher is going to outdrive. Certainly, he's going to outdrive Mazepin. He's certainly going to outdrive that car, but it's going to take him a little while to get going. In F2, he did take some time to get going, but once he started to sort of thread the needle, get his idea in, lick the stamp. Ultimately, the car's going to let him down, the team's going to let him down, and his teammate is going to just make him look like an absolute legend. So, 16. As much as I hate to say it, Kimi, really. He's not going to put a foot wrong. He's going to be sort of solid. But arguably, other than sort of like first laps, picking people off in those first laps, first few corners, he's going to sort of fall back. And I think maybe this could be his last year. I think it's most likely, isn't it? Number 15, Mr. Saturday or Mr. Quick Fit, because nobody else comes in for more tyres than George Russell. Obviously, he's going to have learnt an awful lot during that weekend away with Mercedes, but it's not going to be enough to make that Williams into sort of like a solid midfield car. He's still going to be knocking on the door of the midfield. I think 15th is the highest he can hope for. I hope there's going to be a decent points finish, but ultimately, George is just kicking his heels whilst he's waiting for that big call from Toto. Number 14, Ocon. Yeah, fairly anonymous against somebody like Daniel Ricciardo, who was probably quite welcoming. Now he's got Alonso, who, just go and ask Stoffel Van Dorn what that was like. I think Ocon's going to give it a fair good crack of the whip, but that team is going to be Team Fernando, and Ocon is going to feel like a spare prick at a party. 13, Yuki Tsunoda. His first year, obviously, in F1, so but he just got in by the skin of his teeth. He only had a few points on his license to get his super license for F1. It's going to be a steep learning curve. Obviously, he's playing with the big boys now, but undoubtedly fast. I think the next two, actually, him and Pierre Gasly, who I've put in at number 12, are going to be sort of like stuck with this car, which is going to do well on certain tracks. They might well nick a podium, but I think ultimately that car's going to let him down. Number 11, Lance Stroll. High hopes for Aston Martin. And the thing is it's a really difficult one because I don't really like the Strolls. And I don't really know why. If you look at his latest photo, you'd have to say that he looks like some sort of demonic love child of like Fred and Rose West. So that doesn't really warm you to him. Obviously those who love Lance, like his mum and dad, probably will think he's going to be a bit higher. But I don't think he's going to be any higher than 11. Number 10, Vettel. I think Seb's come off the back of a rocky divorce from Ferrari. I think it was in that weird moment where both the couples are sharing the same house. They've divided the kitchen up and things like that, and they're just desperate for it to go through so they can piss off and go somewhere else. I think he's going to be still possibly in a better, obviously you can be in a better mindset, that goes without saying, but I still think he's going to need some real touches to get back into those winning ways. I would be amazed if it's just a switch that you can switch on and he suddenly comes back. I really will. If he does, then he's great, but I think I'm quite harsh on his 4 world titles. I think probably if Ferrari had been a bit better with Alonso, they would have probably only been 2 world titles. So he is always, in my mind, statistically better than he actually is. There you are. Said it. God, dear, sort of. I'm crashing on everyone today, ain't I? Number 9, Carlos Sainz. God, an incredible driver. I actually really sort of rate Carlos. Moving over to Ferrari after coming off such 2 strong years with McLaren, I think, the only thing that's going to let them down is that bloody car. I think him and Charles, who I'm going to put at number 8, are going to be an incredible partnership. I think probably, maybe the best, isn't it? Maybe. Charles Leclerc is just... he's fantastic, and Carlos is right up there as well. So I think Charles is going to have a great year. He's going to certainly do better this year round. The car might have improved a little bit to give him some sort of like leg up. Ultimately, the best that they can both hope for is 8th and 9th. Which brings us on to the top 7, which kind of like starts getting a bit mucky about now, because I'm going to be probably a bit nostalgic and a bit romantic about Alonso here. And this is really bold of me because obviously the fella hasn't been in a Formula 1 car for a couple of years now. But I'm going to put him at number 7. This could be the biggest error of the whole list, actually. That car that Ricciardo has just jumped out of is a very good car. Renault start off monumentally crap, and then they sort of like slowly get better as the season goes on, and then gives you this misguided idea that they're somehow going to be fantastic come the next season, and they just go back to being shit. They're obviously not called Renault anymore, so that might make a difference. Alpine, the Enstone team. Now Cyril's gone, I can actually start liking them. It was a real conflict. It's a bit like going back to sort of couples. You like one of the couple, and then the other, the spouse, you just can't stand. Number 6, I'm thinking Lando Norris. New Mercedes engine in the back of that car. Obviously, they were going to be running, they were meant to be in the new cars by now, but obviously they're going to sort of retrofit that Mercedes into the space that was once occupied by a Renault. That might prove to be temperamental. You only really hear about the sort of like the engineering challenges years later, but it might be harder than we think to sort of get that all to work well. So they might suffer with reliability issues. But I think essentially the chassis of that car, the aero of that car is very, very good. I think Lando is incredibly fast. And as time is going on, he's just becoming more of a rounded driver. This could be the time that Lando sort of really starts to shine, get that podium, maybe a second place, if the reliability is there. And that's kind of a big if that also puts a big question mark over number 5, which is Ricciardo. Yeah, Ricciardo is obviously probably moving to a team he maybe always wanted to go to. Don't get me wrong, he'd probably wanted to go to Mercedes ultimately, Ferrari secondly, and then probably looked at McLaren and thought they're nowhere where they need to be. And Renault have got a whole wheelbarrow out in the front of my house with money, and they're going to give me another one next month. I'll go Renault. Tread water for 2 years, we'll see what happens. Maybe that Bottas seat might be up for grabs in 2 years' time, and I can nab that. Probably struggle to see him as that sort of like focused sort of world champion material. But in the right car, who knows? I certainly think he's capable of some mega podiums, maybe even a dodgy win if all the cards fall away for everyone else and line for him. I just wish he would not drink from the shoe. Okay, number 4. This is where I start to get really bold. Bolder than the last couple of predictions, actually. Number 4, Bottas. I think it's his time. I think this is it. I think no matter what Bottas turns up, whether it's 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, or Big Sur, whatever version turns up of Bottas, it's not going to be enough. He might start off strong. Lewis might be sort of like, oh God, he's a bit quicker this year, but ultimately it's going to mean nothing because on Saturday he might qualify marginally better on occasions, but not mostly, marginally, sometimes, seldomly. Then, of course, when he gets away from the lights, it's like, well, it's a shit show, to be fair. It's an absolute shit show. Then we've got first corner lockups. Where he snatches a break. There's probably out of a field of 20 cars, 3 people will lock their brakes up, and they're always generally the ones at the back, right? No. Bottas, he'll lock up at the front. Wheel-to-wheel combat is just not his thing, really. And I think he's being kept on because it keeps Hamilton happy. Valtteri challenges me. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't challenge you at all. He turns up and he drives the car adequately. But he's nowhere near championship winning pedigree. I mean, Lewis would have to have Corona for like sort of 9 months, for Valtteri to get anywhere close to winning a world championship. So this has got to be his last year in Formula, not maybe Mercedes, certainly Mercedes, but it's, not in Formula One. I mean, somebody will have him. So yeah, 4th place. That's the best I can hope for him. I reckon it might even be worse than that, but I'm saying 4th, based on the fact he's driving like by far the best car out there. 3rd, Sergio Perez, race winner finally. He's in a car that is capable of winning races now, like consistently. Yes, they're going to favour Max Verstappen, but when Max drops the ball, when he has like a little tangle and he goes off or whatever Max does, that kind of like you think, oh God, if you just didn't do that, you'd be higher up. If you didn't have those bad luck moments. Then you've got Perez in place to pick up the pieces and just be captain consistent. Great partnership. Which brings me on to number 2. I've wrote this down and I'm like scratching my head now thinking, I don't know so much. Lewis Hamilton. I'm calling it. I don't think he's going to win his next world championship. I don't think 2021 is going to be the year that Lewis Hamilton wins his 8th world title. And this is why. I think without his wingman, without Bottas, little old donkey coming up behind, I think Verstappen is going to have more strategy calls. I think Perez is going to really upset the mix. I think Red Bull are going to think this is our chance. With Perez coming in and kicking up the dust, I think it's going to offset Bottas. There might be some sort of like mishaps, accidents, strange strategy calls. It could come really close. I still think Lewis is by far the most rounded driver out there. You can't not be. He doesn't cook his tyres. He's consistent. He's such a clean driver. Very, very few drivers are as clean as him when it comes to sort of overtakes. He doesn't put a foot wrong. He is the complete round package, ultimate 360 driver in the ultimate car. But I think without the wingman, with Sergio in the mix, taking points off of him potentially, I think Verstappen is going to be able to get in there. Which means I think Max Verstappen could be the 2021 World Drivers' Champion. I hope and kind of pray for the sake of entertainment that Red Bull have learned from their slow starts. Every year they seem to have this slow start, I think they've ironed out their aero. I think the car is only going to be a B version of the current car, which wasn't too bad towards the latter half of the season. I think when it comes down to having choices, Red Bull are going to be in a better position than Mercedes. And this is going to force Mercedes' hand when it comes to selecting another driver. But that will lead them on to another video that I'm going to be doing about what happens next. So there you go. Let me know what you think. If I'm any way, shape or form correct and you think that I'm onto something, give me a like, all right? If you think that I'm way off into the gravel trap, then let me know, actually. Put it in the comment section below. I'd like to hear from you. Be polite, all right? And let's see what happens. Let's come back to this video in a year's time, see how wrong or right I was, and we'll go from there. I'm Dean. This is Box, and I'll see you again very soon.